Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought I'd reach a point in my marriage where conversations about intimacy felt like negotiations with a stranger. My name is Elliot. I'm 38, and I've been married to Marigold for 12 years. 12 years of laughter, inside jokes, and quiet Sunday mornings that once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. But lately, something had shifted. Something subtle at first, like a shadow in the corner of a familiar room. And now it was staring me in the face. It started one Monday evening when Marigold handed me a carefully typed list. 10 bullet points. 10 reasons she wouldn't be intimate with me anymore. I read them slowly, almost in disbelief. Each point felt like a brick in a wall that had slowly been rising between us over the past few years. The first reason was familiar. I'm too tired after work. I nodded silently because I'd seen the exhaustion. Long days at the publishing firm, endless emails, meetings that stretched into dinner time. I got it. I really did. Then came, I'm stressed about the house. Fair enough, bills, repairs, and the never-ending clutter. She wanted perfection, or at least the illusion of it. I had always tried to help, but somehow it was never enough. I'm not in the mood emotionally. That one hurt in a way I couldn't have anticipated. It wasn't just fatigue or stress. It was a declaration. I wasn't enough to stir her heart anymore. The list went on. I'm worried about getting sick. I feel self-conscious. I'm focused on the kids. I need space. I don't want to feel pressured. I'm tired of feeling guilty. I don't feel connected. 10 reasons. 10 silent walls she had built around herself, around us. For a moment I felt crushed. And then, clarity hit me. If she could list 10 reasons why we weren't connecting, then I could list 10 consequences of her own choices. 10 truths that weren't threats, but realities. I didn't want anger or resentment to guide me. I wanted understanding, fairness, and a mirror to reflect back the weight of her words. I took a deep breath. Marigold, I said, keeping my voice steady, I hear your reasons, and I respect them. But I think you need to understand what your choices mean to me. She raised an eyebrow, surprised at my calm. I saw the hesitation in her eyes, the tiny flicker of curiosity that told me she wasn't expecting this. If you're too tired after work, I began softly, then I'll stop asking for closeness and start looking for it elsewhere in healthy ways. Reading, running, or spending quiet evenings alone. Not revenge, just reality. If you're stressed about the house, I continued, then I'll focus my energy on what I can control. Paying bills, maintaining the yard, fixing the leaky faucet, without expecting any appreciation for effort that doesn't meet your standards. If you're not in the mood emotionally, my voice grew firmer but never harsh. Then I'll protect my own emotional health instead of begging for attention that isn't coming. I could see her shifting slightly in the armchair, her fingers twisting the hem of her blouse. The first 3 points barely scratched the surface, but already the tension in the room was palpable. She wasn't used to this calm, reflective boundary setting. She had expected pleading, maybe a debate, perhaps frustration. Not quiet, deliberate clarity. If you're worried about getting sick, I said, counting each point carefully in my mind, then I'll take the precautions I need and no longer expect you to adjust your life to avoid my presence. Our health is shared responsibility, not mine alone. If you feel self-conscious, I paused, letting it sink in. Then I'll respect your space, but I won't shrink myself to make you comfortable. My confidence isn't negotiable. Her eyes met mine, wide now, something like shock and fascination mingling. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't angry. I wasn't being cold. I was clear. And clarity, as I've learned over the years, hits harder than any anger ever could. I moved carefully through the next 5 points, each statement measured, honest, and unwavering. Each one mirrored the weight of her own reasons, translating them into consequences that didn't punish, but reflected reality. I need space. I would honor it, but I wouldn't wait indefinitely. I don't want to feel pressured. I would stop asking for intimacy, but I wouldn't suppress my need for connection forever. By the time I finished, The room was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. She hadn't spoken once. I didn't need her to. Sometimes, silence is louder than words, and in that silence, the truth of her choices hung between us. I leaned back, breathing slowly, feeling a weight lift off my own chest. For years, I had bent toward her needs, folding myself into her comfort at the expense of my own. For the first time, I wasn't bending. I was standing. Marigold finally looked up at me, her lips slightly parted, like she was trying to form words but couldn't. I held her gaze, calm and unyielding. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about truth, the kind of truth that forces people to face the weight of their own choices. If you're focused on the kids, I continued softly, then I'll take pride in being present for them, but I won't neglect my own needs to make up for the lack of connection with you. Our children deserve two whole parents, not one parent bending to the other's indifference. If you need space, I said, letting the words settle, then I'll give you space, but I won't wait endlessly in the shadows for affection that might never come. I'll build my own life around the boundaries you've set, instead of shrinking to fit into the gaps of your attention. The room was quiet now, and I could feel the shift. Marigold's list had been a shield, a fortress around her comfort. My consequences weren't attacks. They were mirrors, and mirrors don't lie. If you don't want to feel pressured, I said, voice steady, then I'll stop seeking your approval for intimacy, but I also won't compromise my right to feel loved and valued. Pressuring yourself into comfort doesn't make anyone happy. It just builds resentment. I saw her fingers tighten around the paper, the list trembling slightly in her grasp. She was absorbing each line, weighing the truth against her excuses. I didn't rush. I let the silence between each consequence stretch just long enough to let it sink. If you feel guilty, I said, counting the points carefully, then understand this, my patience has limits. Guilt isn't a substitute for action, and excuses aren't a replacement for effort. If love is present, it will show. If not, it will fade, and I won't chase it anymore. If you don't feel connected, I finished softly, then I will seek connection elsewhere, through friendships, hobbies, and my own personal growth. Connection is a human need, and if it's denied here, it will flourish where it is nurtured. By the time I reached the 10th consequence, the weight in the room was tangible. 10 reasons she had given. 10 consequences I had mirrored back. Not as punishment, not as threat, but as reality. The room held a tension so sharp I could almost feel it pressing against my chest. Marigold finally spoke, her voice low and uncertain. I didn't realize. Her words trailed off, unformed, like the echo of a confession. I didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. Sometimes understanding doesn't need words. It needs presence. For the first time in months, the silence wasn't empty. It was charged, alive, the kind of quiet that forces reflection. Reflection on choices. Reflection on consequences. Reflection on love, neglect, and the slow erosion that happens when people stop seeing each other. I stood up, gently placing my hand on the table, not touching her, not seeking reconciliation just yet. I let the message linger. 10 reasons, 10 consequences. The balance had been restored, if only in truth. That night, I didn't leave, didn't argue, didn't yell. I went to bed alone in my own thoughts, letting the quiet settle. But in that quiet, I realized something important. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're the lines that protect what you value, your heart, your dignity, your sense of self. The next morning, Marigold seemed different. Not apologetic, not submissive, but reflective. I didn't demand affection. I didn't coax. I simply existed as myself, fully present, fully aware, fully human. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, not by her approval, but by my own clarity. Weeks passed, and something shifted subtly. Marigold started small gestures. A lingering look, a soft smile, a touch that wasn't obligatory. I didn't rush to reward them. I let them exist naturally. She was beginning to see that love wasn't demanded. Love wasn't guilt. Love required reciprocity, effort, and presence. I realized then that my 10 consequences weren't ultimatums. They were lessons in self-respect. They were the quiet, firm proof that boundaries aren't punishment. They're statements of truth. And in truth, there is power. By the end of the month, our connection didn't magically return to how it had been in the first years of our marriage. But something more profound had taken root. Mutual understanding, respect, and a sense that neither of us could take the other for granted. Love wasn't something I begged for anymore. It was something we had to nurture together equally. And I learned something else. Something I wish I had understood years ago. When a person stops meeting you halfway, no amount of pleading will bridge the gap. Only clarity, presence, and firm boundaries can reveal the truth. And in that truth, we find freedom. I don't know what the future holds for Marigold and me. Perhaps our intimacy will flourish again. Perhaps it won't. But I know one thing with certainty. I will never compromise my self-respect, my boundaries, or my dignity for someone else's comfort again. Sometimes, love isn't about closeness. Sometimes, love is about standing firm and letting life, in its quiet wisdom, teach its lessons.